I'm Gabby.
And I'm Maddy.
And you're listening to the Jukebox Honeys podcast, where we talk about all things 60s, 70s, and 80s music related.
Follow us at the Jukebox Honeys on all social media platforms and add us on Spotify to hear our weekly episodes.
I just can't start with that.
Oh my god.
They did so much drugs.
Yeah.
So many drugs. Queen, iconic band. Rock and roll is definitely the best. The best.
Out of everything, like at least they play instruments. That's what I like.
Friggin' love ABBA!
Yeah.
Mamma Mia!
Here we go again.
Stevie Nicks
is the most iconic, and I love her relationship with Harry Styles.
And I love that she's a witch and everyone accepts it and
yeah, that's what I mean. Like it's just completely different. She's never cared. Landslide will always be my favorite.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Jukebox Honeys podcast,
episode 1.
Finally.
Yeah, finally got that.
It has been a journey to start this episode for sure. We've had a lot of technical issues.
Yes, we had the camera problem. Camera kept cutting out, so we are filming this for the second time.
Third time.
Oh. I literally just forgot. Well, yeah, we just started again, but didn't plug the mic in. So
yeah. That was an us problem, but it's fixed now. So hopefully this will work out. Third time's a charm.
Honestly, everything comes in threes.
Yeah. So hopefully that's done for. But so we're just gonna talk a little bit about ourselves and why we wanted to start this podcast. So we're both in university at the moment. We're both in journalism.
At Ryerson, yeah. We're both in third year as well. Gabby and I have known each other since grade 10.
Holy crap.
I know. It's been a long time. We both went to Mayfield in Caledon, Ontario.
Oh, we're disclosing everything?
We're going to disclose that one. Because it's an art school and we're dramatic as F.
Well, you are. I'm musically inclined.
Oh, yeah. So Gabby's got that little music vibe, so kind of understands why we are doing this podcast.
Yeah. But you've always loved this type of music, and that's something we always really bonded over, was our love for oldies, I guess.
Yeah, 100%. Like, I've always been a big fan. Even, like, my boyfriend says I was born in the wrong decade. Like, it really is true. But both of us have always bonded over this, I believe. Like, even more so now than ever. Not so much in high school. We didn't really talk about it too much, did we?
Not a lot, but it would be like, oh, Maddy and Gabby have control of the aux cord. Here's some, like, Billy Joel and, like, a bunch of old crap, and we'd be like, we love it, it's so fun.
Yeah, we'd always recently we've been sending each other, like, TikToks and stuff of funny, like, a girl sitting in the car just wants to listen to her oldies after being with her friends for a weekend.
Yeah, it's definitely like that. Or, like, I want to move to a farm, do a bunch of mushrooms, and, like, just lay on the field and look at the stars, and no one wants to do it with me. So we would send those types of TikToks back and forth. And, yeah, we just, because of quarantine, being stuck in the house, just like everyone else, we were feeling that we lacked something creative to do and something fun to do, because it was always like, wake up, do schoolwork, go to a job like Maddy does, and then come home and sleep. There was nothing really fun to do.
No, and I definitely, because we both went to art school as well, I feel like we missed that in high school. We missed doing something creative and not just schoolwork or school projects. Like, our projects are pretty creative as they are, but they're not free to do whatever you like.
No.
To a certain extent. You can do, like, you get the idea, the choice, but you still have to follow the rules. The rule guide, kind of.
And it's more like, I guess, because we both like music so much, and because I studied music, I miss, like, talking about music and actually just talking about it and having that in my everyday life. Yeah. So this is why we wanted to kind of start this and have something fun to do.
Yeah, and do music, but also we love history.
Love history.
Both of us. Like, we both throughout high school, that's, I think, what we talked about more was history. We both love it so much, just learning about it, just kind of telling the crazy stories. That's what's happened and how that kind of relates to our now.
Yeah, it's definitely something we bonded over, and we even took, like, a history class together in grade 12, and it was so much fun. And yeah, so those are the kind of the reasons why we wanted to start the podcast. And our first episode is about Woodstock. So keep listening and let's learn all about Woodstock 69. So to kind of start off, we thought we would talk about the history behind Woodstock and what led up to the actual festival. So Woodstock it started on August 15th, 1969, and it was supposed to last for 3 days. It technically lasted for 4, but it was advertised for 3 days.
Yeah.
And it was supposed to be an Aquarian experience, which is very hippie, psychedelic, and...
Wasn't that the name of it originally? Or there was another one, the town that they were in, they named it after.
Oh.
Sort of the...
Bethel?
Bethel. They were going to name it the Bethel Festival, and I was just like, no.
No, Woodstock definitely has a better... It just sounds better coming out of your mouth. It just... Bethel?
Yeah, no.
Sorry, Bethel, but Woodstock sounds better. So the 4 guys behind Woodstock were named... hold on, let me look my notes to make sure I get their names right. John Roberts, Joel Rosenman, Artie Kornfeld, and Michael Lang. And they were all, they dealt with the music industry, and they were in the music scene. I think they were producers, like a bunch of them were producers.
I think 2 of them were, yeah. And then 2 of them were like more businessmen.
So they wanted to do a festival, and it all kind of started because they wanted Bob Dylan and his band to show up.
Yeah, they really did. They honestly were inspired by Bob Dylan, and I think they truly did love him. It's sad, and we'll talk about that later, why he didn't show up, but...
Yeah, but they knew that he frequented the area of, like, Bethel, Woodstock, New York, so they were like, oh, maybe if we just throw a music festival here, he'll show up.
Sorry.
Yeah,
it didn't happen.
Did not happen. But they did get... Let me make sure I say this slow so I don't mess it up. Creedence Clearwater Revival Band as one of their main acts. And that kind of like solidified their legitimacy in the eyes of many, many hippies. They were like, oh, they got CCR? Okay, we can go to Woodstock. There was a huge issue in finding a venue for Woodstock. Like so much so that they basically didn't have one until 3 days before the event.
Yeah.
Oh, imagine that stress.
The stress they might have been going through, like, oh my god, like, I couldn't even imagine that, like, literally, and how we talked about that before, but this is, like, this happening again, the odds that this would happen again is insane. Like, this is just pure luck, like, that this all fell into place, and,
at
like,
the right time.
Exactly, like, literally, like, a puzzle piece, like, this would never happen again. And it never did. It never did happen. Every time they tried to remake, nope.
There were always issues.
Yeah.
Just Woodstock 1969 was just the perfect series of events that led to eventually what it would become. So it wasn't until a dairy farmer who lived in Bethel, New York, named Max Yasgur, he owned a dairy farm, and he was like, hey guys, if you want to rent like a part of my field of my farm, you can throw your little festival here. Because they were only expecting like 50,000 people to show up. But what they did not realize was that I guess their marketing team was better than they thought they were for the 1960s. And 400,000 people would show up.
Yeah, it was actually 80 times the amount of people.
Imagine that.
No, I couldn't.
It's crazy.
Like 80 times the amount of people showed up without the marketing that we have today, let alone. Like the socials. That is insane.
It's crazy how many people heard about it. Like, how many people must have been tuned into their radio or watching their box TVs.
Yeah.
So, before they even had a venue, people were lining up to go to Woodstock. They would pack the roads. No one could move on the local highways. Like, it was a traffic jam in downtown Toronto times a million. Like, it was so bad. People would, like, abandon their cars and just walk to Woodstock.
Yeah, and they literally, like, locals, like, there's no way they were getting out of their house for that entire time.
No.
Like, they were stuck. It's like, in your house. I guess what we're going through.
Yeah, it's literally quarantine, but 1969 version.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd rather the 1969 version.
That only lasts 3 days.
Yeah, and then I would even leave my house and be like, okay, I'm going to go to Woodstock. You guys stay home. Yeah. After realizing that they had hordes of people showing up to Woodstock, they had to make a decision. Do we build medical tents? Do we build food stands? Do we build washrooms? Or do we do fencing and ticket booths so that we can sell tickets and make profit? Well, I guess their morals were more in check than people nowadays, like Fire Festival.
Yeah.
They decided maybe we should take into consideration that 400,000 people have showed up, and they decided to build the food stands, medical booths, and washrooms instead of doing the tickets, which meant that people walked into Woodstock for free.
Yeah.
which was not planned.
Profit was lost. Literally, like, they spent, I believe it was $3 million, and it would be, or $3.1 million, and it would be $15 million today, and they only profited 1.8, and it wasn't even till the early 80s that they profited due to the documentary they made.
Their documentary was definitely a lifesaver.
Yeah, it saved them. Like, if they didn't make that documentary, they would have profited nothing, and they would have lost.
Oh, yeah. But I also think the documentary kind of helped solidify the legacy of Woodstock, and I think without it wouldn't be as big of a deal as it is today. Like, we're still talking about it. Like, a music festival, we're still talking about it. Mm-hmm. I think the documentary helped it kind of live forever.
Yeah.
A lot of people that attended Woodstock were definitely hippies, like the very typical hippies that just imagine hippie, what pops into your head. Those are the kinds of people that showed up. But it was also just like a mix of everyone. Everyone showed up to Woodstock, and the dairy farmer, he made a speech before Woodstock actually began and was like, I'm so in awe of how many people here showed up because they love peace and they want love and they want freedom for everyone and justice for everyone, because at the time the Vietnam War was going on.
Yeah.
And a lot of those people were against those guys going to war and being drafted, and they saw it as like a senseless war. So he was just so inspired that the younger generation was stepping up and trying to make a difference, just like how they are now.
Yeah, definitely.
And yeah, all those people just showed up. They wanted to experience peace and love, and they wanted to just have a relaxing weekend and listen to some good music, which I think everyone can, like, relate to.
Yeah, and I'm so, like, happy also that, like, the older generation as it was so inspired by this. Like, he was so inspired by this, yet that generation wasn't that much about social issues as well. Like, they didn't really care, like, his age group.
Yeah, for sure. Although, it was supposed to be happy, peace, love movement, the weather was terrible.
It really
was. It rained all 3 days. There was mud. It was terrible. But everyone still made it a wonderful event. And like Maddie will talk about later, there were no instances of like violence or anything. It was just a wonderful weekend where people showed up and they just wanted to experience music and experience each other and have just a great time.
But honestly, isn't that just so hippie? Like,
it is so hippie.
That they literally were stuck in the rain, dancing in the rain and everything with the mud. And
Mother Earth.
Yeah, just connected to the earth. And honestly, I think I said this before once, but about the rainbow. Like, everything rain comes and then a rainbow comes, and that's hippie, so.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so now that we talked a little bit about, like, the basic history of what happened, let's talk about a little bit about the medical experience that happened. Like, it's nothing you could predict. Like, well, some of it you could predict, but some of it is just
crazy.
What? Yeah. The doctor that was put in charge originally was William Abruzzi. He was titled the Rock Doc after this all happened. Pretty obvious why. But he took on, like, the multiple medical kind of issues that, like, occurred, but he could not handle it. Because we said before, there's 80 times the amount of people that showed up. He thought roughly around 50,000, so he staffed everybody around that.
Yeah, because that's what he was told. That's what everyone expected.
That's what everybody expected. Around 50,000 to 100,000, I think it was. Mm-hmm. He had to call for backup, like, within the first couple hours.
Oh, yeah.
Of surrounding towns and neighboring towns and cities. He had to literally call hospitals and everything.
And communes.
Oh, yeah, there's the one commune. We'll get into that. But
local commune.
Everybody was notified around. All the hospitals, nearby hospitals, are going to be like, okay, there's way more people than expected, so get ready, because there's going to be medical, with this much people, the odds are that there's going to be medical issues.
Sure. Oh, for sure.
So, there was actually, as Gabby said, a commune. It was called the Hog Farm Commune in New Mexico is where they're located. Mm-hmm. And they were called in basically to help people with bad trips.
Yeah.
So they knew that, obviously, the time and the era, there was going to be drugs. There was going to be drugs taken. So there's obviously likely probability that there would be bad trips.
Especially for people doing it for the first time. Like,
100%. There was definitely people that were doing that. And that kind of experience in not like a safe environment, kind of. No. Definitely a loud one.
Just an open field and like
crazy things happening around you.
I cannot even imagine like getting high on mushrooms for the first time at Woodstock.
Yeah.
Like, just imagine, you can't even imagine it.
No, it'd be insane. So, basically, they had these tents, and they're now labeled the freak-out tents, where people could go in and kind of, like, calm down, and there'd be medical assistants, like, helping them get themselves calmed down and stuff, right?
Have their little freak-out and then calm down.
So, with all the drugs going on, there was 742 overdoses.
Which, if you actually think about it, is not that bad.
No, I don't think so. Like, with, what was it, 400,000 showed up?
Yeah.
That's not terrible, but that's also what was reported.
That's true.
As well. That's what he saw and, like, what got reported into the system. You don't know that there wasn't any others. Mm-hmm. But, unfortunately, there was some sad news at Woodstock, even though it was so happy. There was 2 deaths at Woodstock. So, there was a 17-year-old, I just want to get his name right, Raymond Mizak. I hope I'm saying that right. Mizak? I think so. He was run over by a tractor trailer. And, he was sleeping in his sleeping bag in the field. In the morning, the tractor trailer started going, and he got run over. Yeah. And there was also witnesses screaming at him to get up.
Oh, my God.
They were saying, get up, get up, get up. But they couldn't because he literally, I guess he was just so knocked out. Maybe he had the drugs in him as well, or alcohol, and he was just passed out. He didn't hear it. And then there was also an 18-year-old named Richard Beeler. He was a Marine set to go on to Vietnam. Yeah. He was set to go there. But so this one's kind of like an odd one. So there was conspiracy theories around it. So they basically thought it was an overdose. But in a book published, I don't have the year, but it was called Woodstock 69, 3 Days of Peace Music and Medical Care by Marion Giltel. It states that it might have actually been something due to hypothermia and as well as an inflammation of the heart muscle and possibly side effects because of the drug they gave him, thinking that he was ODing.
Yeah, like he could have just been having like a panic attack or something.
Something, or like the hypothermia or whatever, like, and then they gave him that drug and that ultimately led to his death.
Yeah, that's sad because they were trying to help and then they ended up killing him.
Yeah, just the symptoms were so similar. They just rushed and put the needle, because you have to do that right away, right? Yeah. You have to give the medicine to somebody that's ODing right away.
And is it in their, like you have to stab it in their chest? Ugh.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's it. Don't quote us on that. But yeah. Other than the deaths and everything, there was no incidents of violence recorded. That everybody, he said, like, in the end, it was all peace and love. What it was meant to be, it was. Mm-hmm. The most common injury was actually, I guess, like, cuts on your feet. Like, there was 836, and I think this is a result of the weather, but also being hippies. Yeah. You want to be, like, shoes. Not wearing shoes at all.
Or, like, open-toed shoes and, like, letting the mud all day. Oh.
Yeah, so they were walking around basically in bare feet, and were getting, like, little slices on their feet. Obviously, there was beer bottles probably thrown. There was garbage thrown.
Oh, there's some needles.
Hippies at the time didn't care about the earth and everything. Just the amount of litter that was there as well was insane.
Crazy.
But he concluded that, other than that, there wasn't any bad experiences, other than, obviously, the deaths that happened. But
they weren't due to, like, violence or anything. No, they were just kind of due to, like, accidental things.
And lastly, apparently 2 births at Woodstock, they haven't confirmed this ever. Like, the kids haven't been confirmed, the women haven't been confirmed, but there was witnesses and multiple witnesses that said there was 2 births.
Which, why wouldn't you claim that?
I know, I would too. I'd be like, oh my gosh, I was born at Woodstock, like,
or like, I had a baby at Woodstock, here's my book, go buy it.
So, like, one was said that she was airlifted, and people actually heard the baby screaming. Like, they heard the baby.
Like, when a lot more people would have heard you be airlifted?
I guess, well, there's probably people, like, I don't know. It's conspiracy theory, so it's only witnesses saying this, so you never know. But, yeah, they weren't ever identified to, like, literally this day.
I would have taken that and run with it.
I know, right?
Like, and imagine, like, having a baby at Woodstock. Just, like, I can't even
I know. Wasn't there that one video we watched or whatever? They said a lot of the babies were named Rainbow or something.
Yeah. So basically, a lot of babies were conceived at Woodstock. We know this for sure.
Yes.
And because they were conceived at Woodstock, it was really common to name, like, have some part of their name, whether like a first name or a middle name, to be Rainbow, because I guess that was just like the hippie cool thing to do at the time, was name your kid Rainbow, especially if you were conceived at Woodstock.
Again with the rainbow, I told you, that's just so hippie. Like with the rain coming and then the rainbow comes. Oh, there you go.
Yep, there's our rainbow baby.
That's where it happened. That's how it got made. But yeah, like other than that though, the medical was all good. Like other than the feet and stuff, and there was overdoses, but not as you would expect. The statistics would show way more would happen. Like considering how many people were there, how many people did drugs at that time.
Oh, I bet you almost everyone did drugs.
Every musician almost that went on that stage were high out of their mind.
Yeah, a lot of them don't remember Woodstock. All right, so I think it's finally time to talk about the juicy part of Woodstock, which is actually people who perform there. So the day actually started at 5 p.m. on Friday, August 15th, because everyone was trying to get there and the roads were so jammed that the acts weren't able to show up.
Yeah.
A lot of them had to like be flown in through by a helicopter to even get to the farm. The first act was Richie Havens, and he took the stage and played a 45-minute set. And this guy was insane because he played every single song in his repertoire and then wrote a song on stage which would later become like a huge hit. It was called Freedom, and he wrote it on stage in front of 400,000 people. Like,
that's insane. Like, I don't even know how you would possibly do that.
The talent, the
pure talent.
Like, that's just crazy. Let alone writing a song on stage and then in front of 400,000 people, probably high on drugs. Don't know for sure.
Yeah.
But that's just crazy.
You have to be. Like, honestly, how do you do that? Like, how do you write a song, like the full song, the lyrics, the music, everything on stage while a whole bunch of people are staring at you? It just doesn't even make sense logically.
He wasn't technically supposed to be on at that time because there was another band that was stuck in traffic. And they were like, please just go on because we're trying to stall for time. And he went on and did that. So, almost hit our fish. It's just another example of how like Woodstock was just, everything happened for a reason and everything was in the right place at the right time.
Yeah.
Because that was the number one hit for him.
Yeah, it's insane. Yeah. Everything placed out. It's like magic.
It is like magic, yeah.
It honestly just fell like all together.
Into place. So Richie Havens was then followed by an unscheduled, which a lot of the things were unscheduled, but this was very unscheduled, appearance by, and I want to get this right, I probably won't, but I'm so sorry for my pronunciation, by yoga guru Sri Swami Sach. Oh God. I'm going to put it here. There you go. And he was really big at the time. He was a yoga guru and he gave words of motivation and inspiration. And he kind of gave like a nice little blessing to everyone that was there, like stay safe, have fun, peace and love. And it was kind of nice. Like it was just a nice little thing to start Woodstock. So then the next act was Bert Summer, and he is actually the first musician at Woodstock to get a standing ovation. And he looks like, just if you Google a picture of him, he looks so much like the typical hippie of the time that you would just imagine. It's kind of crazy.
100%.
And after Woodstock, he would play a role in the movie Hair, which is also a big thing from that time.
I can't do that movie. The amount of times those girls watch that on the bus ride to New York, I can't. I will never get those songs out of my head.
Yeah, so he was in the movie Hair, your favorite movie ever.
Oh my God.
And he would later write one of his most acclaimed songs, We Are All in the Same Band, about Woodstock. And it would go pretty, I was going to say viral, but I guess viral wasn't a thing back then. It would climb the charts. After Burt Reynolds, Sweetwater showed up, and they were actually supposed to be the original openers for the band, but like I said, they got stuck in traffic. So Richie Havens covered for them. But once they did, it was their largest performance ever. But sadly, not long after, their lead singer would be severely injured in a car accident. She actually suffered major brain trauma, and they never would perform again, which is really sad.
But at least, like, trying to look at the light in it, at least they got to do that one performance that was massive. Like, at least they get to be a part of that, and it's also recorded, and their legacy can live on.
Yeah, that's true. After them was Robby Shanker, and he played very traditional Indian music. And he did pretty good. People were very accepting, and they wanted to hear, like, different styles of music. But after Woodstock, he kind of tried to distance himself from the hippie movement because he didn't really like the involvement of drugs
with music.
He was very religious, and he just was very against drugs. So he did Woodstock and then left the hippie scene.
Well, I guess, like, it's just what you feel like, right? If he didn't like that, then that's him, right?
Yeah.
So everybody has their right to what they want to do.
Yeah, and for him, I think there was a quote, he was just like, music is our religion, so it's very sacred to us, and having that mixed with something so bad in his eyes was just not okay. So the last person who performed on day one, her name is Joan Baez, and she played at 1 a.m. in the pouring rain while 6 months pregnant.
I can't even comprehend that. There's just so many things, like, I don't even say wrong with that situation, but, like,
crazy.
Insane. Like, the fact that she was pregnant, singing in the rain, the wet state, she could have slipped and fell with the baby in her.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, it's just so much.
But she's kind of a badass.
Like, and yeah, that too. But, like, that's just the dangers of that as well. Like, nowadays, like, everybody, that would never occur.
Well, also, the stage would be a lot more secure than it was.
That as well, yeah. But, like, honestly, she's brave for going to do that. Like, that's insane. Like, I give her that. And that's pure talent that you can do that 6 months pregnant. I'm probably going to be laying in my bed at 6 months. Like, let's be real.
And because she powered through the rain and being pregnant, she would later go on to be internationally famous, and her songs spread the message of social justice and peace and love. And so Woodstock kind of helped her spread her message all over the world.
That's sweet, yeah.
Oh, and by the way, I didn't specify before, but these are just some of the acts, because if we talked about all of them, we'd be here for like 2 hours. So it's just kind of the more prevalent acts that were there on Woodstock, and
that kind of stood out.
Yeah. So day 2 officially began at 12:15 p.m. So you like the days kind of like meshed together because everything was just so unorganized.
Yeah, they blend. Like, that girl was on till 1 a.m. in the morning, right, as well.
They let everyone sleep and then get up a little bit later.
Yeah.
So the next one we're going to talk about is Country Joe McDonald. Very nice name.
We love that. That's definitely a Mayfield name right there.
It's so true, though. So he was actually the only person at Woodstock to perform twice. And that was because they didn't have anyone to perform at the time that he did. They
Again, showing the messiness.
Yeah. They're just kind of like, I know you're supposed to perform tomorrow and with your whole band and stuff, but, like, can you just do this now for free, by the way? Just, we're not going to pay you, but, like, can you just do it anyway? And so he was nice enough to the guys that he performed for them for free. And, like I said, he would later go on to perform with his band, Country Joe and the Fish.
Solid. Solid man.
So the next person was John Sebastian, and this guy has a really interesting story, actually. He was a spectator at Woodstock. He was an audience member.
Oh, yes, this is the guy.
They kind of, like, pulled him aside and were like, hey, can you play? Can you sing? Okay, can you just perform in front of all these people because we don't have anyone here right now and we need to fill time? So he was like, hell yeah, like, right place, right time, magic of Woodstock.
Yeah.
He got up on stage and he performed, and he was well received. The crowd loved him, and it actually, like, created his career.
That's just insane that it was so perfect. The timing was perfect. With this, it's just crazy to me that literally everything fell into place. Like, I keep saying this, but it's just insane. Like, this guy was just standing there, and then the luck of that.
Mm-hmm. Just, like... like, you think about it, even if he was, like, a meter back, he might not have, like, been picked.
Yeah.
Like, it's crazy the amount of things that happened.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so
I wonder if he was singing at the time or something. If
maybe
they noticed him. Like, how would you just randomly pick somebody? Like, I feel like he must have been doing something. Maybe he was playing his guitar or something.
Maybe, yeah.
Possibly, but...
like, in the crowd, just, like, chilling. Yeah. But, yeah, he would actually get pretty famous after and release a couple of songs.
That's fantastic.
Crazy. Next is the Keith Hartley Band, and they were the first British band to hit the stage. But they were left out of the documentary that we talked about before, and so they kind of missed out on their big Woodstock theme. Which is kind of sad.
It's kind of sad that they didn't get filmed as well. Like, I wonder why that was.
I think it was either their manager wanted them to get paid upfront.
Oh, okay, yeah. But they didn't have the money.
No, they didn't have the money. Or it was because the recording and the video were off. It was one of the two. I can't remember which one, but yeah, it was just really sad.
That is sad.
Yeah. Next is my favorite because my family still listens to them. Santana. Santana is a Latin rock fusion band, and they graced the stage on the second day, and they killed their set. People would later say that their set was the most magical and life-changing. And only a week later, they released their self-titled debut album, and it skyrocketed. Later in life, I think his name is Carlos Santana, the main guitar player. He admitted he was so high on LSD that he thought his guitar was a snake.
That is insane to me. The fact that he was high out of his mind, he literally, I'd be scared. Okay, I have a phobia of snakes. But I'd be terrified thinking that I'm holding a freaking snake and then still playing it.
Amazingly.
Yeah, and rocking it. Literally.
It was crazy. They did amazing. And they were kind of pioneers for their genre of music. So, like I said, their legacy still continues to this day. A lot of people...
Spanish rock, right?
Yeah, Latin rock fusion.
Yeah.
Their legacy still continues, to this day. Like I said, my family still listens to them at all our holiday parties. And it's just crazy that, over 50 years later...
Yeah.
A lot of these... Well, not a lot of these people, but some of these people would really use Woodstock to kind of create their legacy. And
yeah,
it's just crazy to think that, some of these people today are still putting out music.
Yeah. But some of them as well, you might not know everybody because they're popular at the time in the 60s and 70s, but some of them aren't the most famous, and nowadays. Even though, all these big bands, you're not hearing, the main big bands, and we'll get into that later why. Mm-hmm. But it's amazing that all these small bands made up this.
Yeah, we're able to use it as, a come-up, and we're able to... Mm-hmm. use it for, maybe it was 10 years, maybe it was a year, but they were still able to utilize the fame that came with Woodstock.
And we still talk about it.
Mm-hmm. Next was Can Heat, and they were easily a crowd favorite. They kind of, got everyone pumped. And, but through the documentary, you actually see that the stage was so, during their set, they would jump in and, crowd involvement was big in their set.
Yeah.
And the stage was so poorly built, you could see the boards shaking as they were trying to dance and get people up.
I'd be terrified of that. It would be so terrifying thinking that you're gonna jump and then just go through.
Yep. It's pretty freaky. After them was the Grateful Dead, and the Dead are known for the first time you get high should be at a Dead concert.
Yeah.
They're just known for being that band that everyone goes and sees. But at Woodstock, it was actually one of their more boring
shows.
Thank you. I couldn't think of the word. A lot of people actually fell asleep during their set.
That's so weird.
Which is crazy because they're known as a live band. They're known as get high, go party. And they put everyone to sleep. It was really crazy. They had so many technical issues, including being shocked every time they tried to play their guitar. Mm-hmm. Which... Ow.
Yeah.
And of course, they were also very high out of their minds, which didn't help the situation at all.
And see, it's funny that literally that the bands that were really popular at the time were the ones that were flopping.
Yeah.
And all these small bands that nobody ever heard of were the ones that were rocking out and killing it.
I guess it's because the big bands were more used to professionalism, whereas the small bands were you know what? I have the chance. I'm going to use it to my advantage.
I'm going to utilize this opportunity.
Mm-hmm. So after them was Creedence Clearwater Revival. I don't know why I have such an issue saying Creedence Clearwater Revival.
Just like CCR.
CCR. They obviously helped Woodstock become legitimate in people's eyes. And while the Dead were said to put everyone to sleep, which is kind of ironic because their name is the Grateful Dead, CCR woke everyone up and got the crowd on their feet and dancing about. Next, we're going to talk about the iconic queen herself, Janis Joplin. She actually arrived at Woodstock 10 hours before her set, and she wanted to perform basically as soon as she got there, but other bands were contractually obligated to perform at a set time, so they were sorry, Janice, we can't let you perform. So 10 hours later, Janice got extremely high. Which, like, what are you going to do? What else is there to do at Woodstock, you know? She got so high that it was said the drugs affected her voice. So her voice was more hoarse than normal. But, like, she's Janice Joplin. She still freaking killed it.
Yeah. She's still, like, iconic queen, and she can do whatever she wants, whenever she wants.
Yeah, and she killed her set. Next is Sly and the Family Stone, and, like, their most famous song is Everyday People, which I had in my head the other day, and I was, like, just jamming to it. But their performance was said to be the best at Woodstock. They were, the favorite of everybody. And even though they already had their hit with Everyday People, they would later rise to more fame and become legends. Due to copious amounts of drug use, though, the band would later split in 1975 because they couldn't handle the rise to fame. So, like, they used drugs in order to cope with the fame, and then it affected their music and affected them working together. So they didn't get to really ride out their Woodstock fame, but they did for a little bit, and they gave us such great music.
Yeah, that's sad that happened, but I think a lot of bands go through that as well. Like, the issue of fame, and we can talk about that in another podcast, but the issue of fame really does play in to people as well.
Direction. No, I'm joking. So the last one we're going to talk about for day 2 is The Who. Iconic band. They played a shortened version of their rock opera Tommy due to mass amounts of delays and incidences and issues, but they did an amazing job. And the band actually was quoted for saying God was their lighting man as they wrapped up their set as the sun was rising.
Oh, that's so
it's
cool.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
But they also thought that was their worst performance they've ever done.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's insane. See, again, The Who, big band at the time, but they think that it flopped. They think that their whole...
But it's also, like, I know this just from... I'm not saying that I'm, like, any comparison to, like, any of these bands, but you are your worst critic, and you are so hard on yourself. So I don't know if it was actually, like...
They actually
did a terrible job, or if it was, like... I thought I did a terrible job. Yeah, because you're way harder on yourself than anyone else.
Well, even me, like, when I used to do drama, oh my god.
Yeah, I think it's just like an arts thing.
Yeah, you're critical of yourself, and that's true. Even if they're writing in journalism, we're critical with ourselves.
Oh, yeah. Even though they thought it was their worst performance, people still thought they killed it. So,
yeah.
That's all that matters. And that was the end of day 2. And it wrapped up around 9:45 in the morning on August 17th. Day 3 began around 2 p.m. because everything was all over the place. And
didn't it end day 2 at 9:30 in the morning?
Well, yeah. Well, you just gotta wait for people to show up and people to get out of their drug-induced comas. It's fine. So first up were Country Joe and the Fish. So like we talked about Country Joe, he had already performed, so this would be his second performance. And the band did all right, but they weren't able to use Woodstock to boost their careers because they would break up in 1970, which is only a year after. And it was said because, like, Country Joe, he got a taste of, like, the solo freedom. And, so he was just like, okay, bye, guys. After him was Johnny Winter, and he played a very heavy blues set. But by the time he hit the stage, everyone was ready to go to bed.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, so... His fame would decline after Woodstock because he got really heavy into drugs.
Of course.
Yeah, like he became I think it was a heroin addict, yeah. But good news is he quit heroin in 1973 and he was able to kind of turn his life around. But kind of sad thing is he was never able to become as famous as he was.
Yeah.
So he cleaned up his life and he cleaned up his act, but he was never able to be as famous as he was. Which is like good and bad.
Yeah, he got his life together, but at the same time he lost that music, I guess, roll to fame.
But I guess what's more important, like,
is your
getting your life together or doing music. So to him, it was his life, which I think was the right choice.
Yes.
After him was Blood, Sweat, and Tears, and this band was huge in the 60s, and they were the big headliners for the show. But due to their manager arguing that Woodstock had not bought their recording rights out front, they were not included in the documentary. And the band would lose some of their fame because, funny enough, they had, like, ties to the government.
What?
Yeah. They were, like, I don't know, I guess they maybe supported something and the hippies were against it. Oh. So once everyone found out that they kind of, like, were okay with the government and pro-establishment, the hippies were like, nah, man.
Yeah, it's not it.
We can't have you. We're anti-establishment. We don't like the government and get out of here. So their hippie fans definitely thought it was not cool. So they kind of lost some of their fame, but their music is great. After them was Crosby, Stills, Nash, and Young, the band. And it was their second performance ever. Woodstock was their second performance ever.
The first, like, up-and-comers, like, it's insane. Like, the guy from the audience and then this guy.
Well, you know Crosby, Stills, Nash, and Young.
Yeah.
You know,
I know, but that's only the second performance.
Yeah. And so they said they were scared out of their minds to perform in front of 400,000 people, which I think, like, anyone would do.
Yes.
Like, it's terrifying.
And for your second performance of yes, like, they probably performed in front of 10 people before that.
Yeah. And, like, because those are such big names, obviously, we know that they would later rise to even more fame and perform in front of even more people. So this was just the beginning of their careers. After them was Shana, which I love that name. It's so fun to say.
So fun.
And they were asked to perform at the insistence of Jimi Hendrix. They had a very, very short set. I think it was like 90 seconds.
Yeah.
It was really short. But they kind of brought back the music from the 1950s. And because of them, things like Grease and Happy Days were created later in the 70s.
It got inspired, kind of.
Yeah, it was coming back into fashion. And so they were kind of to thank for masterpieces like Grease.
Yeah, musical. Like the musical phenomenon.
Yeah. Oh, I love Grease. Grease is amazing.
It is.
And lastly, the iconic man himself, Jimi Hendrix. He performed technically on the fourth day of Woodstock. And he is most remembered for his rendition of the Star-Spangled Banner on guitar. He performed at 8 a.m. And although it was said it was not his best, like everyone basically at Woodstock, he killed it and would forever be remembered in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Just, I think, at least for me, when I think of Woodstock, I think of Jimi Hendrix and him going to town on his guitar. And he was basically the icon of Woodstock.
And he gave Americans a whole different reminiscence of the...
Yeah, and it was almost like a political statement, too, because if you listen to his rendition of the Star-Spangled Banner on his guitar, it's kind of, like, warpy, and it's kind of, like...
Yeah.
So it kind of reflected their, not hatred, but their anguish against the government.
Yeah, at the
and
time.
how they wanted things to change. And that's the end of day 3/4.
Okay, so now we're going to talk a little bit about the declines of Woodstock. Like, who declined this? And the list is quite insane, considering that all of these people were huge, and Woodstock's huge, but they didn't mix together.
No, it definitely... Like, Woodstock to them at the time was just another festival.
Yeah, they didn't think it was going to be this legacy.
No, and who could have predicted that?
Nobody could have predicted that. Like, without the film, I don't think it would be the legacy.
Exactly. So, first on our list is Led Zeppelin. They said no to Woodstock.
I couldn't believe that. And they literally said no just because they didn't want to be another band on the list. They didn't want to be just another name on the list of this festival.
They wanted to be taken more seriously, and they wanted to be individuals. Next is Bob Dylan, which is so sad because this is the whole, like, reason why Woodstock was a thing.
I know, all the producers and the makers of Woodstock loved him. And it's sad that he declined that just because he wasn't interested.
He just didn't want to do it.
He just was like, no, I'm not interested in that kind of vibe. I'm not in that kind of scene. I'm not a festival kind of person.
So sad.
I know.
Poor guys. The Doors. They declined because they thought it would be just another festival.
Again, there's just probably so many at the time as well that were happening, but not even close to the magnitude of what this was.
Definitely.
I also have here just like a little fun fact going off, but this led to stadium concerts in the 1970s.
Wow.
Which is crazy to think, like the mass population of people, they love that kind of vibe and the energy that was brought to it. So it kind of put together that 70s stadium era.
Crazy. That is
concerts.
insane.
Yeah, that happened. So it wasn't just another festival, The Doors.
No, but they couldn't have known that. They could not have known that. So next is Joni Mitchell. And Joni Mitchell was huge at the time. And she actually said yes to performing at Woodstock. But they later, her manager would say, please don't do it, because she had an appearance on the Dick Cavett show the next day. And Dick Cavett was like the Jimmy Kimmel of his day. Like he was huge. Basically, if you wanted to make it, you'd go on the Dick Cavett show. So her manager was like, please stay home, don't go. So she listened, and she watched Woodstock from her TV, and she would later write the song Woodstock from just her experience watching it, and that would go insanely, like, it would top the charts.
Yeah, it topped the charts as well, and it's sad that she didn't get to experience it, but at least she got to make a song out of it from watching what she saw happen.
Mm-hmm.
And then, oh my gosh, just imagine if they actually played.
Oh my god, like, that would have been so iconic, and it probably would have been one of their last big
events.
And we're talking about the Beatles.
Of course, like, the iconic 60s kings of the time. Still now, they're the greatest band ever. Don't, like, even fight me on that one. I'm so sorry, but they are. The Beatles declined, and there's kind of a little bit of conspiracy theories to this. So some people say that it was actually because of John Lennon's girlfriend, or wife. Was it the wife at the time?
I'm not 100% sure.
I'm not sure when they got married.
Yoko.
But Yoko. So she had a band at the time as well.
I think she was a
solo artist?
Or a band. I can't remember.
Don't quote us on this again. Facts, what are they? But yeah, they didn't want to play, and I don't think they would let them play as well. So I think John Lennon, he wanted them to play, something about him wanting them to play, but
he wanted Yoko to perform too.
But they said no, that's not happening. So another reason why this girl ruined the band. But another thing. But and then the other kind of conspiracy was that Lennon actually had like a drug arrest at the time, so they weren't going to let him into the States. There's kind of conspiracies around that. That's not confirmed. Neither of those are confirmed. But there's conspiracy theories of why they didn't perform, which would have been amazing.
Oh, it would have been so good. And lastly on our list, there are many more. Obviously, we're not covering all of them because they probably reached out to a lot of people and they said no. But the last one on our list are the Stones, the Rolling Stones.
Yeah.
I didn't mean to say it like that.
The Rolling Stones.
The Stones, the Rolling Stones.
You just know what Stones we're talking about.
And they said no because Mick was in the middle of filming a movie in Australia and Keith Richards had just had a baby. So they were like, yeah, no, sorry. Like, we're just not going to show up to Woodstock.
Yeah. Sad, but honestly, the big names didn't even do good in Woodstock. It was mostly the small upcoming bands that later became big.
Yeah, for sure.
So, lastly, what we're going to talk about here is all the flops of the remakes that tried to happen, but they just didn't. Like, the 90s, they had a little Woodstock moment, but it was not even close to what this was. And it wasn't also peaceful. There was a lot of stuff that was going down violence-wise. It wasn't even close to the amount of peace that Woodstock had. Like I said before, Woodstock didn't have any records of any violence happening between people, but the 90s one did. And then, of course, in 2019, actually almost exactly 50 years after Woodstock, was going to be another one. And this one was created by one of the original makers of Woodstock. Producers of Woodstock, Michael Lang, as we talked about him before. So he really wanted this to happen. He wanted this 50th anniversary to happen, and be better than the one in the 90s. It
would have been so cool.
It would have been so cool.
I wish we would have won.
I know. It would have been amazing. But as I said before, it wasn't going to happen. Like, the amount of stuff that fell through, they had the event place fall through. They had ticketing issues, I believe. Again. All the agents and stuff were like, oh my god, we need to sign our artists up. They were all excited. Michael Lang's on this. Oh my gosh. Okay, we're gonna sign our bands up real fast. But it didn't happen. Like, they couldn't get the event. They couldn't get anything. And actually, David Crosby stated, it had nothing to do with anybody feeling good about each other. It had everything to do with people making huge amount of money.
Yeah.
So, which is true. It didn't have that vibe of the 60s where everybody's just doing it because they want everybody to feel good. It had everything to do with money. It had everything to do with profiting off of this. It didn't have to do with let's everybody come in. Like, remember, they just said, oh, who cares about the tickets? Whatever. We still want this event to happen. Let everybody come in. Mm-hmm. It didn't happen that way.
This was a money grab.
It was just money. It was pure money. It was just everything. So it didn't happen because of that.
And I think that's the reason, like you said before, why Woodstock 69 just did so well. Because it was about the music. It was about peace. It was about love. It was nothing to do with money. They let people walk in for free. And that's why I think they've never been able to kind of recreate the magic of the original Woodstock, is because everything has always been about money. Yeah. And everything has always been about, like, fame and prosperity and all that stuff. It was never, again, about the music, which is why I think it's just so hard to recreate that original moment.
It's never going to be recreated.
No.
Ever. It's never going to be, they tried and it just, look at Fire Festival.
Oh, man.
Biggest scam on earth.
No, like, you'll never get a Woodstock again.
No, you'll never get that. You'll never get that harmony and peace within people not caring about wealth as well. It's not going to happen. It's never going to happen.
Unfortunately. It's pretty
Quote
sad.
me on that one.
And that was Woodstock 1969. A crazy music festival that just became iconic and legendary in the history books. It was something that will never be repeated again, and it's something that will definitely live on for many years to come.
Unique to the 60s and will always stay in the 60s.
Yeah.
So what's to come? So we're going to have weekly episodes with new themes, different themes every week. And next week we'll actually be talking about series of drug events that happened in the 60s, 70s, and 80s with multiple different artists. As you know, we talked about in Woodstock, there was
a lot of drug use. So just imagine over those decades how much drug use and like not even just the bad side of it, just how much music resulted from crazy trips and crazy experiences with drugs.
Yeah, so many songs were evolved, so many albums were evolved after drug use. And there are, though, those bad experiences too, which we'll talk about. Bands were destroyed, people were destroyed.
People died.
But
there was also good. So that's what we're going to talk about next week. And so we just want to say thank you all for listening. I know it's our first episode. It might be a little rough, but we thank you for sticking around and listening to the whole thing.
Everybody's got to start somewhere. So.
Exactly. So just thank you so much for listening. And if you want to hear more, you can follow us at
all our social media. So everyone but the Twitter is the Jukebox Honeys, and Twitter is Jukebox Honeys. You can follow us all on there. Subscribe to our YouTube channel.
Add us on Spotify.
Add us on Spotify as well.
And we'll talk to you guys next week. Stay rad, stay groovy, stay you. Bye.